I am getting settled into the new place. It's a little sparse. I don't know, I just don't like a bunch of tchotchkes. So my husband and I officially disassociated from the Jehovah's Witnesses New Year's Eve 2017. So we rang in 2018 free. It was probably 2 years later. I reconnected with an old friend of mine who was like a brother to me. We grew up in the same congregation back in Dallas, Texas. Our families knew each other. So I was just like really stoked to talk to him. And at one point in the conversation, he's like, yeah, so I was talking to my dad the other day. And I was like, oh, that's great. How's your dad doing? Because at the time of this phone call, a couple of years prior, I had started my fade. And his father was actually visiting at the time, had come to North Carolina for a job. He was coming for work to do something. He wasn't coming to visit me, but he was just going to be in the area. So I actually touched base with his dad and was like, hey, I would like to meet up. If we can get dinner or something, I'd love to see you. Like, I was really struggling at the time. I had a lot of doubts. It was a very dark time. Anybody who knows, when they're waking up, it's rough. And I remember like texting with his dad. It just so happened that everything coincided with the convention that weekend. That's like Jehovah's Witnesses' annual Mecca. Like 2,000 to 3,000 people meet, or it's probably less than that now, maybe 1,000 to 2,000 people meet. Local stadium, local venue, and there's all these Bible sermons or talks. So it just so happens that when he was visiting for work, it coincided with the convention. And so he was gonna just go to that after his work gig. And like I said, I was going through a really hard time, and I loved his dad. He was always a very kind-hearted, fun, cut-up kind of guy. And I was like, hey, you wanna go out for dinner? He was like, hey, I don't know about dinner, but I'll see you at the convention, right? I was probably 30 or 31 at the time. It was the first time in my entire life that I had actually was planning to skip a convention, which is unheard of. You're always supposed to go to these annual events. I don't think I'm gonna be going to the convention. I'm sorry. Like, there was a lot of guilt and shame that I wasn't going and doing my duty. But if you have time before you leave town, I'd love to see you, even if it's just for a coffee. When I said that I wasn't gonna go to the convention, he kind of begged off. And that was it. That was the last time I spoke to his dad. We never spoke again. So anyways, I'm telling my friend this. We're on this marathon phone call. And poor thing, my buddy's like really hesitant. He's like, oh yeah, about that. He told everyone that you were like bless him, he felt bad relaying that message. I love his dad, so I'm never gonna think ill of him, despite all of that. He knows not what he does. But this is so typical of Jehovah's Witnesses and what happens when you leave a cult. And I'm not a trauma therapist or cult expert, all right? I've just studied patterns in cults over time and realized a lot of the same variables apply to my situation. Maybe you just come from a really controlling church. Maybe you're dealing with a really controlling family member or parent or something of that nature. But for the sake of argument, let's just say you're a Jehovah's Witness watching this. You're fading, you're trying to extricate yourself from the organization, and you catch wind that people are gossiping about you. Let them talk. Here's why. All right, let your good old apostate Auntie Bethany offer you some perspective. When you finally realize or accept that this is just what cults do to people who leave, you can start to look at their behavior objectively. I don't want to just, sit here and go, oh, just don't take it personal. Of course you're going to take it personal at first, because these were people, this was your community. All right, these were your friends, and they're talking trash about you behind your back. It's gonna suck. Nobody likes that feeling. It's not a good feeling for anybody. So I'm not gonna diminish or dismiss how it feels at first. I get it, it sucks. But this is just what cults do. Someone leaves the hive, right? The groupthink kicks in, and now they have to demonize the defector. You just have to remember that they're brainwashed, and the fact that they turned on you on a dime is just a result of their indoctrination. But really try to consciously detach yourself from their reaction, because that's all it is. It's a reaction. It's a conditioned response. We were all taught that, right? Somebody leaves, ooh, they left. Ooh, they're apostate now. It's already just deeply ingrained. So that's what it is. That's what they're doing to you. I did it to people. People called me and apologized and said, I'm sorry I did that to you. I said, look, I did it to other people, and I called them and apologized to them. It happens. This is how they work. You also have to remember that people get triggered. Jehovah's Witnesses are bored. They're bored. They're bored. But they're also rewarded for following the rules, right? They may secretly resent their JW life. They may secretly resent being a pioneer or whatever, but that dopamine hit, right, of being complimented on their talk, or the comment they gave at the Watchtower study, or maybe they get approval from the elders because they didn't get approval from dad, or maybe they don't get approval at work, from their boss. So they're getting something. The problem is it's a brittle, illusory replacement for actual self-worth. Because if you truly valued yourself or respected yourself, you wouldn't play the game. And obviously I get why a lot of people stay because of the shunning threat. If they're threatening to cut off your resources, your family, that's heavy shit. But just generally speaking, if you're just insecure and need the validation, you have to understand that this is a conditional, transactional relationship. They only love you and think you're awesome because you're following the rules and living up to their expectations. Shit, this can just go for friends. Nowadays, people can't even talk to each other without it instantly devolving into a fight if someone has a dissonant opinion. Like, oh, we're all girlfriends, we're all friends, or whatever. You breathe in the wrong direction, it's like,
you can't sit with us!
So the bottom line is, when you finally build up the courage to walk away, that's definitely gonna trigger some people who haven't done the difficult work, and it is difficult, it's not fun, the difficult work of being okay with people not being okay with them. They want to be liked, they want to be accepted, but at what cost? I mean, if you're loved by everyone and you never piss anyone off, you're doing something wrong. So for some people, they're gonna talk about you because they have nothing else. Jehovah's Witnesses are bored. They follow the same routine week in, week out. All right, the end is not coming. It's not coming. No, they live in their own little world, their little isolated community of ass kissers. So basically when they get a little morsel of gossip that brings all of them together, they go, this is the culture they live in. The truth is that your bravery, your ability to take a risk and actually leave reminds them that they haven't. So they talk shit about you to make them to feel better about themselves. Then with some people, there is a very strong need for control. Now this closely connects to being triggered. Again, I'm not a trauma therapist, I use that term loosely, but when you challenge someone's entire belief system, they might resort to talking about you or spreading gossip about you as a means to discredit you. They've lost control over you. They can't control the fact that you left, the fact that you're happy, the fact that you're just off doing your thing. They can't control you mentally, emotionally, financially, maybe that's the thing, physically or whatever. So they try to control the narrative about you. If they can't control you directly, they're gonna go in a roundabout, different direction to try to control others' opinions about you. Watchtower's been doing this for years, all right? People like me who leave and speak out were called mentally diseased. They resort to ad hominem attacks, right? They're attacking you instead of attacking the argument or the problem. Or in the case of my friend's dad, he has to jump to this conclusion that something must be wrong with me because he can't entertain any substantive argument as to why I was depressed. It can't have anything to do with the organization. He can't let his brain go there. It's quite possible that the other person is afraid of what they might learn. You don't know. They might have secret doubts themselves. When they talk about you or whatever, they come to these conclusions. It might not be malicious, but they're still trying to keep you contained and compartmentalized, because if they really listened to you, if they actually listened to you and heard you, then the things that they would learn, that means that they would then have to change. So it could be pride, it could be fear, who knows? It's understandable why people would want to protect themselves or why that would be their reaction or their coping mechanism. But I find it interesting, my friend's dad, why he would frame it that way. Like, I grew up with your boys. You knew me when I was wearing Oshkosh and pissed myself at the zoo. And that was just last year. You're like family. If you truly thought I was struggling or had issues, why not help me? You have the truth, right? These little nuggets of wisdom. Why not drop by and encourage me? But of course, that's not what it was about. It was, if you could take this little passive-aggressive jab, right? Like this swipe at my mental health, feign concern, then it lets you off the hook from asking questions and entertaining why basically your adopted daughter, who you know really well, why she's having these doubts. She might be onto something. When my buddy told me this, like word on the street is Beth has mental problems, it was just funny coming from a group of people who disowns family overnight. Fire is gonna rain from the sky, kill everyone on earth who doesn't buy their brand of religion, and believes that 12 men in upstate New York are gonna rule the universe with Jesus. It's a little pot meets kettle. And not to mention that Jehovah's Witnesses keep Big Pharma in business. Are you kidding me? You know how many people have gone insane? How many Jehovah's Witnesses have jumped from bridges? Who are currently self-medicating with Grey Goose and Xanax? You can't hurt my feelings. I know that's not coffee in your Stanley cup. So really just the hypocrisy and the absurdity of it all just made me laugh. And it was actually comforting, yes, comforting, because it meant that they would continue to keep their craziness out of my life. Now, sometimes an interesting trend occurs when you both leave. They'll experience conflicts and infighting. And this tends to occur, what I've observed, it tends to occur between people who are extremely passionate about their new beliefs. They have some sort of new religious or political stance, but they don't understand the concept of boundaries or tolerance, mutual respect, or just like basic civility. They have these new political or religious beliefs, and it really, really bothers them that the other person is not agreeing with them. I see this all the time in the Jehovah's Witnesses. This person is now an atheist. This person is now a born-again Christian. The atheist says you're an idiot if you still believe in God. The born-again Christian says you need Jesus. They just get stuck in this pointless crossfire. Like, it's one thing to state your position, you're proud of who you are, that's cool. But to insist that others believe the same thing as you do, you insist they adopt your new belief system or they're trash, dude, you're just as bad as Watchtower. You're literally just as bad as the thing you came from. All right, this is a you problem. We're not in a cult anymore, right? That's the beauty of freedom. We're both out, man. We're both free of the shackles of Watchtower. We're both gonna evolve. Life goes on. We're both gonna change. We might go in different directions, and we might not be on the same page anymore about a lot of things. We can either agree to disagree, but what I'm not gonna do is sit here and be disrespected. I don't owe you shit. We are no longer tethered. If this sounds like someone you know, we all know that one person. We've all come across that one person. Don't engage. They can take their bullshit somewhere else. So anyways, if you're going through this, I'm really sorry. You're gonna be okay. Let them talk. It's the secret to your liberation. While they're busy doing that bullshit, you're gonna rebuild your life and bring people into your life who actually love you and support you for who you are, right? People who have demonstrated that they're worthy of your time and attention. There's a real mind bender. So I got a rug in here. I'm sorry if it's kind of echoey. I'll probably be trying different places. It's gonna take a little time to get adjusted. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.